Welcome back to my channel. I'm Kayla with Kayla's Cricut Creations, and I am so excited for this video because I want to give you a ton of really fun hacks in Cricut Design Space that just helps me all the time when I'm in here creating. I just recently posted a video that's an ultimate guide to Cricut Design Space. I go over all the little details in Design Space, so I am going to link that video down in the description box, but I thought it would be great to have a shorter version of that video where I'm just giving you some of my best tips and hacks. While you're watching this video, I would love it if you commented down below and let me know if there's any new tips or hacks that you've learned. Also, if you have any that you want to add, I would love to hear it. I know everybody loves looking at the comments. If you're new to my channel, I would love it if you subscribed and hit the bell so you don't miss any of my videos, and let's get into this. My first hack is for those who are like me and have a difficult time visualizing what a design will look like on a blank. Sometimes I think a design is going to look so cute on something, and then once I go through the whole process of cutting it out and adding it to it, I end up not liking it at all. I'll give you an example of this. Let's say I'm making a St. Patrick's Day dress for my daughter. Let's say I want to put a design using heat transfer vinyl on the front of this dress. What you can do is bring a picture of this dress into Cricut Design Space. First, what I'm going to do is take a screenshot of this picture. I'm on a Mac, so I'll hit Shift-Command-4. You can see that little cursor now, and now I can drag over what part I want to screenshot. It'll come down to the bottom and I'll click on it. Now I can save this to my photos. I don't have a Windows, so I'm not sure how to do a screenshot on that. If anybody knows, let us know in the comments, or you could try Googling that as well. I open up my photos on my Mac, and I am just going to drag this into my Downloads folder. Now I'll upload that image into Cricut Design Space. You can see it here under my Downloads folder. I'll select Complex, then Continue. You don't have to erase the background, but I kind of like to, so I'm just going to erase that. Now right here, I'm going to select Print and Cut. I won't do anything with this picture. I'll end up deleting it, but I'll show you how I use it. I'll click Upload. And then I'm just going to make this a lot bigger so I can see it easier. I've pulled in some images from Cricut Design Space, and I'm just going to unhide these. I did not know where these were at first. It was all behind the dress. I'm going to right click and send the dress to the back. Now let's say I'm trying to decide between all 5 of these designs. What I can do is bring it over the dress and I can just get an idea of what it's going to look like. So we have that one. Let's pull in this one. And I can see, oh yeah, I don't really like that. It's kind of narrow on the dress. We have a couple more over here. I think that looks really cute. Bringing the rainbow over here. So this just really helps me figure out what design I want to use, what it's going to look like. You can always change the colors or use different vinyl colors as well. And looking at this, I love the rainbow. I think it looks so cute. That or the hearts I feel like look the cutest on this. My next hack is very similar, but I'm trying to figure out my colors and what color vinyl I want to use. Let's say I'm cutting out this cauldron with adhesive vinyl and I'm trying to figure out what color green vinyl I want to use. I'm over on 143 Vinyl's website. I buy a lot of my vinyl from here, and let's say I'm using StarCraft permanent adhesive vinyl. There's a lot of different options of greens. This might be kind of common sense that like lime green or light green would look good, but let's do an example of like, let's say we want to do dark green and see how that looks. What you can do is download a color dropper onto your computer. So let me go back over here. My color dropper is at the very top here. I'm going to click on it. Then I can bring it over any of these colors. I'm going to select it. At the very top right, you can see that it copied the hex code. I'm back in Cricut Design Space. I'm going to ungroup this cauldron. I'm going to select on the clover. Then I'm going to go up to the color. I'll click on Advanced, and down at the bottom you can see the hex code. I'm going to highlight over the whole thing, and I'll hit Command V to paste. And you can see it automatically brought it in here, and as you can see, that vinyl's not going to look too great on the black. Sometimes this is kind of common sense. You know that the dark green's not going to look great on the black, but other times it really is difficult to visualize what the vinyl color is going to look like. Now let's go back over there. Let's try the lime green. Obviously that looks fantastic. I'm even going to try the light green. Obviously the dark green, you can tell that wasn't going to look good, but the light green and lime green, sometimes those are hard to tell, and this looks a little too bright for me, so if I hit undo, this was the lime green color, and I know that I definitely like that the best. That's going to look great on black vinyl. That is just one of my favorite hacks when I'm trying to choose a vinyl color, because sometimes you have a lot of different shades to choose from. This next tip, it's not necessarily a hack, but it's something that I use all the time, so I wanted to share it in this video, and that is the guide tool. If you watch my channel a lot, you know I always use this. But let's say we want to put this cauldron on an 8x8 canvas. I'm going to grab a shape, and I'll grab a square. I'll go up to my operation type and change it to a guide. Then I am going to go up to my size, and I'm going to type in 8 and hit enter. It'll automatically make it 8 inches for the height since it's a square. I'm going to have to send this to the back. Now what I can do is size my cauldron, and I can see exactly what size I want to make it in this. And what's nice about this, I can take a measuring tape and measure my blank, but you really don't even have to when you're doing this. I like that. Let's see what the size is. It's almost 6 inches for the width, so you could just switch it just to make it a little bit easier. Another cool thing about the guide is you can change anything into a guide. So let's say I'm putting something on a heart, and let's say the heart's about 5 inches. I can go up here, change that to a guide. Let's say I'm putting like a font in here. It can help me figure out that sizing. You can even change this image to a guide. Another neat thing is when you click on Make It, it doesn't show up on the Make It screen, so you don't have to hide it or anything. I just use this tool constantly, so I really wanted to share it. This next one is a font sizing hack. Let's say I am making labels for my spice jars. I'm just going to grab my text, and I'm going to type in 2 spices. I'm also going to say that our spice jars are about 3.5 inches for the width. And then we'll just make it a little bit longer. Looking at my font, I can make it about 3 inches for the width. If I bring it in here, then it looks great for my label. Typically when I'm sizing things, like let's say I'm making a large shirt, I'll make all my designs about 11 inches for the width. But let's see if I make this 3 inches for the width as well. It's going to be a lot bigger. So if I duplicate this and bring this in here, you could obviously label all of your spice jars like this, but when they're all laid out, to me, I just don't really like the look of this. My tip for this is instead of using your width for your sizing, you're going to want to use your font size. We have 2 different font sizes. We have about 52 for rosemary and 90 for garlic. You're going to want to take your longest font size, and I'm just going to make it just 52. 52 just makes it easier to type it in. Now what I'm going to do is click on garlic, and I'm going to come up here and type in 52 and hit enter. I'll bring it a little bit more in the center, and look how uniform that looks. It looks so much better. I'll just try one more. Let's say cinnamon. I'm going to come up here and change it to 52 font size and hit enter. I have all of these centered, and look how great that looks choosing the font size. My next hack is a very simple one, but honestly makes my life a lot easier. I'm in Creative Fabrica, and let's say I want to download this really cute font. I'll hit download. I'm in my downloads folder. I'm going to double click in here, and now I'm going to install the font. I'll install this one also. I'm in Cricut Design Space. I'll click on text, and in system I'll type in best smile. And you can see it's not there. That's because I had Cricut Design Space open when I downloaded the font, which most of the time when I'm downloading fonts, I have Design Space open. So what you have to do is completely close out of Cricut Design Space and open it back up. And as you know, Cricut Design Space is very slow. That takes a while. But what you can actually do is go up to the top of your computer, click View, and all you have to do is hit Reload. I'm just going to hit replace, but you'll want to save it if you have something you want saved. That literally took 1 second. Now let's see if our font is there. And there it is. This is a really fun font too, how it comes with the script as well. I love these letters too. I'll definitely be using this font. I'm going to keep this same font up for my next hack. So let's say we're going to type in hello. And I'm also going to grab the script font of this same font. And let's just say I type in sunshine. When these are separate layers, you can see what font it is in the font toolbar. And even if I go in and let's say I decide to unite this together, I can click on this little arrow. I can click on the text and it will tell me the font size. But let's say I'm going to flatten this. So I'll undo my unite and I'll come down and hit flatten. When I click on this arrow, it just shows print and cut. The font toolbar does not come up. So if you were to save this project and come back into it later, you would have no idea what font you used because when you click on it, the font toolbar is gone. But there is a way to figure out what font it is. What you do is you go over to the layers panel, you right click, you go down to image info, and you can see the selected fonts right here. This is the same if we go in and weld this together. The font toolbar is gone, but if you right click, go down to image info, it will show you what fonts you're using. I have one last font hack that I'm going to use while I have both of these still up. I'm going to delete hello. Now I want to show you how you can easily thicken a font in Cricut Design Space. I learned how to do this in Inkscape and it was extremely complicated, so this is such a cool way to do this. I'm going to make this bigger. I'm actually going to duplicate this so you can see the difference when I'm done. And what you can do is use the offset for this. I'm going to bring this cursor all the way down because I don't want it too thick. I think that looks pretty good. I'll hit apply. So now when I move this out of the way, this is my original font and this is my offset. So I can just delete this. I'm going to make this the same color so it's easy to compare it. And look at that. Isn't that so cool and so easy? I brought my cauldron back in, and this is not a hack, but it is something that I see happens constantly, so I really wanted to share it. Let's say I am going to use print and cut for this, so I'm going to go up to my operation type and switch it to print and cut. Right now it's grouped together, so if I were to click make it, you can see it's going to cut it out all separately. Since it's all separate, you know that attaching it will put it all together on the mat. So let's say I go in here and click attach. It's saying it's too big, so I'm just going to auto resize my image. Then I'll click on make it. Looking at this, it looks like it's going to cut out exactly how we want it. It's set to a print and cut, it's attached. But what the Cricut's going to do is it's going to cut out this cauldron, but it's also going to come in here, cut out the clover, and it will come in between here and cut this out. But when you're doing print and cut, you want it to cut around the whole outside of the image. You don't want it to go in and cut out this clover or cut in between here. If that's happening to you, then you need to select the flatten button. Even though this is attached, it's set to print and cut, you still need to come down and select flatten. When I click on make it, it's going to look the exact same, but this time it is going to cut only around the outside of the cauldron. I pulled in this image from Cricut Design Space and I kind of have two tips in one here. When I pull this into the canvas, it's only one layer. But let's say I want to cut this out on green and black vinyl and I want to make St. Patrick's Day black and the clovers green. What you can do is use the contour button to create more than one layer. The problem with this image is when you come down here, the contour button is grayed out, and I get this question all the time, why is my contour button grayed out? That is because this is set to a print and cut. So you need to switch this to a basic cut, and now you can see the contour button appeared. So if you're not seeing your contour button, make sure your layer is set to a cut image. Now to separate this, what I'm going to do is hit Command D on my keyboard to duplicate it, or you can come up here and select duplicate. So with this one selected, I'm going to go to contour and I am just going to take out the two clovers. Now I'll go over to this one and I want to take out all of the wording. So I'll click on contour. It would take a long time to select on every single one. So what you can do is select hide all contours. It automatically keeps that top one, but all I want to keep in is the two clovers. So I'll click on those and then I will select on that A to get rid of that. When I click out of it, I have the two clovers. This will waste a little bit of vinyl in between here. So what you could do is hit duplicate again. You can select contour. I got rid of one on one side, then I'll get rid of this one. Now we have two different ones separated as well. So now if you look over here, we have three different layers now in the layers panel. So I can bring these over. Now I can change the St. Patrick's Day color. Let's actually say we're doing like a light green and then we want to do the clovers dark green. You can see it'll separate it on the different mats. The contour button is such a great tool to have if you want to change up your SVG. I have my cauldron back in here and I have 3 little tips and hacks on the Make It screen, so I'll click Make It. I'm sure a lot of you, if you've had your Cricut for a long time, you already know these next couple tips, but if you're new to Cricut, this is very helpful. Also, I just used one of these for the first time the other day. My first tip is if you want to cut out multiple of these, you can go up to Project Copies and type in however many you want to. I'm going to type in 3. So that makes it very easy for it to do it all at the same time. Now my next tip is that Cricut is not great at putting it all on one mat, but as you can see, there's room to put it over here. To do that, you're going to hit on the 3 dots. You'll select Move Object. You'll select the first mat and confirm. It looks like it's not there, but it is. It's directly over the other one. And now what you can do is just rotate this on the mat. That will definitely save on vinyl. Now my third tip is, let's say you want to cut out 3 of these cauldrons, but for some reason you only want 1 of these clovers. The other day I had this issue with the project where I wanted multiple of a couple, but not the other. What you can do is go in here, click the 3 dots and hit Hide Selected. And now what you can do is it'll cut out all 3 of the cauldrons, all 3 of the gold, and then only 1 of the clover. So I just feel like that's a great tip. My next hack is on the print then cut screen, but I have a couple tips I want to share as well. First of all, there's always a lot of confusion on what the bleed does. I see so many people to turn it off. I actually recommend keeping it on because what it does is it gives the Cricut a more accurate cut. I think what people panic about with this is it makes a fuzzy border around the whole image. But if you click on this little info here, it says the bleed extends ink slightly beyond the border of image to eliminate a white margin once the image is cut. So if your image isn't cutting out correctly and you've already tried calibrating your machine, try turning the bleed on and that might just fix the problem. Now my other tip is in the Use System dialog screen. You'll always want to turn that on when you're doing print then cut, then select print. When you click on media and quality, your screen might look a little bit different, but my quality always automatically comes up as normal. And when you print your image, it's just going to look like okay quality. It's not going to look amazing. So what you want to do is go in here and switch it to best and your image will turn out a lot better. Now for my hack, you can save your image as a PDF file. So if you click in here, you can title it Cauldron Print Then Cut. Now when I go into my downloads folder, I can double click on it. And here it is. What's really cool about this is you can print it off, and if you're not ready to cut it out yet, you can cut it out at a later time. I have one last thing to show you on the Make It screen. When you click Browse All Material, you have the option to come down here and select Material Settings. This is great to have because it'll tell you the material cut pressure and how many times it'll cut. Let's say the machine is cutting out acetate and by the time it cuts through 3 times, it's just cutting too deeply. What you can do is you can actually edit the setting. I don't mess with this too often, but it's so nice that the option is there. You can change the cut setting, you can bring it down just a little bit, or you can even go in and tell it how many times to cut. So it's a really cool option to have. You can do this for any of the cut settings. Another really awesome option too is if you scroll down to the way bottom, you can add a new material type. And I actually did this for the Dollar Tree vinyl, so let's do an example. I'll type in Dollar Tree vinyl. If I hit save, now I can choose the setting for this specific material. Let's say I need it to be all the way to the bottom. I can hit save. Now I've made my very own material setting, which is very cool. I hope you found this video helpful. If you did, give it a thumbs up. And once again, I would love it if you subscribed if you are new to my channel.